Business continuity planning is one of the core responsibilities of the cybersecurity profession. Business continuity efforts are a collection of activities designed to keep a business running in the face of adversity. And this adversity may come in the form of a small-scale incident, such as a single system failure, or a catastrophic incident, such as an earthquake or tornado. The focus of business continuity is keeping operations running. And because of this, business continuity planning is sometimes referred to as continuity of operations planning, or COOP. While many organizations place responsibility for business continuity with operational engineering teams, business continuity is a core security concept because it's the primary control that supports the security objective of availability. Remember, that's one of the big three objectives of information security: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. When an organization begins a business continuity effort, it's easy to quickly become overwhelmed by the many possible scenarios and controls that the project must consider. For this reason, the team developing a business continuity plan should take the time up front to carefully define their scope. They should answer questions like what business activities will be covered by the plan, what type of systems will the plan cover, and what types of controls will it consider. The answers to these questions will help make critical prioritization decisions down the road. Continuity planners use a tool known as a Business Impact Assessment, or BIA, to help make these decisions. The BIA is a risk assessment that uses a quantitative or a qualitative process. It begins by identifying the organization's mission essential functions and then traces those backwards to identify the critical IT systems that support those processes. Once planners have identified the affected IT systems, they then identify the potential risks to those systems and conduct their risk assessment. The output of a business impact assessment is a prioritized listing of risks that might disrupt the organization's business, such as the one shown here. Planners can use this information to help select controls that mitigate the risks facing the organization within acceptable expense limits. For example, notice the risks in this scenario are listed in descending order of expected loss. It makes sense to place the highest priority on addressing the risk at the top of the list, hurricane damage to a data center. But the organization must then make decisions about control implementation that factor in cost. For example, if a $50,000 flood prevention system would reduce the risk of hurricane damage to the data center by 50%, purchasing that system is probably a good decision because it has an expected payback period of less than 1 year. In a cloud-centric environment, business continuity planning becomes a collaboration between cloud service providers and the customer. For example, the risk of a hurricane damaging a data center may be mitigated by the service provider building a flood prevention system, but it also may be mitigated by the customer choosing to replicate a service across data centers, availability zones, and geographic regions. Business continuity professionals have a variety of tools at their disposal to help remediate potential availability issues. One of the critical ways that IT professionals protect the availability of systems is ensuring that they're redundant. That simply means that they're designed in a way that a failure of a single component doesn't bring the entire system down. Business can continue in the face of a single predictable failure. The single point of failure analysis process provides security professionals with a mechanism to identify and remove single points of failure from their systems. Let's look at an example. Here we have a simple web-based application, a web server protected by a firewall and connected to the internet. As we conduct a single point of failure analysis, we might first notice that the web server itself is a single point of failure. If anything goes wrong with that server, the web service will stop functioning. We can correct this situation by replacing the single web server with a clustered farm of servers that are all designed to provide the same web service. The cluster is designed so that if a single server fails, the other servers will continue providing service without disruption. Once we've implemented the cluster, we've removed the server as a single point of failure. Next, we might turn our attention to the firewall, another single point of failure. If the firewall goes down, internet users will not be able to reach the web server, rendering the web service unavailable. Therefore, the firewall is also a single point of failure. We can correct that situation by replacing the firewall with a pair of high availability firewalls, where one serves as a backup device, standing by to step in immediately if the primary firewall fails. By replacing the single firewall with a high availability pair, we've removed the firewall as a single point of failure. But we have still yet another single point of failure here: the internal and external network connections. As with the web server and firewall, we can address this single point of failure by introducing redundancy and having two separate network connections for each link. If one fails, the service may continue to operate over the other. This single point of failure analysis may continue on, identifying and remediating issues until either the team stops finding new issues or the cost of addressing issues outweighs the potential benefit. This single point of failure analysis is an important part of an organization's continuity of operations planning efforts. Organizations should also consider the other risks facing their IT operations. As they conduct IT contingency planning, they should not only consider single points of failure, but also all of the other situations that might jeopardize business continuity. For example, these might include the sudden bankruptcy of a key vendor, the inability to provide computing or storage capacity needed by the business, utility service failures, and any other risk that IT management believes may disrupt operations. And one final component of business continuity planning that's often overlooked is personnel succession planning. IT depends upon highly skilled team members who develop, configure, and maintain systems and processes. IT leadership should work with their human resources department to identify the team members who are essential to continued operations and identify potential successors for those positions. That way, when someone leaves the organization, management has already thought through potential replacements and hopefully provided those successors with the professional development opportunities that they need to step into the departing employee's shoes.